Welcome to this conversation, ladies and gentlemen. We are here yet again, to dissect issues that are happening, that are pertinent to us as women, but also to our community. And today I have a very wonderful panel that is going to help me dissect into the conversation on right to bail, but then also on the jargon and politics around vaccination and mandatory vaccination. I have beautiful Marion Kirabo here, who is a human rights activist, and she's a feminist in her own right. And she's not, new to this panel. Welcome to my panel today.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome, my dear. And next to her is, an NRM diehard. I want to say that. And a feminist, an activist, a human rights advocate. And she's new to our panel, but you're going to see more of her because she's bringing something that is, tangible to this panel. Welcome to this panel, Rebecca Jenna.
Thank you.
Yeah, so today when we are diving into this, I want us to, to be aware of the realities of the law that we live in. We're going to be talking about the right to bail, but then what exactly is the right to bail? The president said we need to scrap it off. We need to do away with it. And other things he said is that we cannot have suspects walking around in the guise of bail, while Ugandans may certainly be thinking they are released. And his argument is that he's trying to, deal with issues of mob justice, but then also issues of, letting suspects go scot-free in the event that, they're victims of a death. So I want to pick your brain on what do you make of that? I'll begin with you, Marion. What do you make of that, especially in regard to the right to bail and the position of the president?
Well, the right to bail, maybe I'll explain it a little for the audience to understand. Yeah. That sometimes, and it is to the discretion of the court, that you might have a suspect and there are charges slapped on that suspect. However, you see that the suspect, the evidence against the suspect is not so solid to convict them and find them guilty. Yeah. So based on the constitutional right that you are innocent until proven guilty, based on the fact that you have a right to free movement unless regulated by, let me say, by the law. The court allows you to go, and of course under some conditions they set you free as trial is going on. So you are out and about, but then they set some conditions. They say that for example, you cannot go beyond this territory or this jurisdiction. Most times they say you cannot fly out of the country.
Stay local.
Yes, stay local. Sometimes they might also slap, they give you sureties to make sure that those people present you to court. Yeah. If they do not present you to court, then there's a fine to pay. Or sometimes there's a case actually where I was arrested because the person that I stood surety to did not appear in court. So they limit your movement, but they give you a little freedom so that you can go about your work as the trial goes on. It is not that bail is a constitutional right, but the right to apply for bail is a constitutional right. So that is where the distinction is, that bail is at the discretion of the court than the judge. The judge can decide that the evidence around you is too overwhelming. True. And you are what they call a flight risk, that if we allow you to go, you will disappear. Yeah. So if the judge considers that you're going to disappear and all that, they can retain the discretion to keep you behind bars until the whole trial is set and done. Yeah. It also depends on what kind of offenses you have committed. There are those capital crimes when the judge is like, you know what, you deserve to even start your sentence now. It's not to say that he has said that you are guilty. He just thinks that because of the conditions that your case presents, it's better you are inside. So that is it. Now, scraping off bail completely then becomes problematic because of those constitutional rights that I've talked about.
Yeah.
So it is like the president is trying to say that all suspects are guilty.
Yes.
That and are guilty irrespective of what crime it is. That
Yeah.
means we're going to judge a murderer at the same
Place with a petty thief.
with a petty thief.
Yeah.
You know, all of you stay behind bars. Even before we go into the injustice, what is the capacity of our prisons to maintain
hold these
such
people.
Yes. Also look at the pandemic itself. Imagine that they scraped off bail right now. The congestion and the spread that will be in what? Behind in bars. We have also, sorry, in prisons. We are also alive to the fact that the backlog in the judiciary is such that people spend years and years on trial and their case has never been heard, or it has been heard but a judgment has never been given. What happens to those people? What if eventually I am innocent? I've spent all these years. You have actually sentenced me for maybe 20 years, like I've been waiting for my case for 20 years, even 5 and 10 years. I'm behind bars. Can you give me back that time that I have spent?
And
so
before, let me pause you there, and then I think bring in Becky there, because she speaks of a very important condition, the remand system of our prisons. I'm imagining, I have not yet gotten trial, but I'm on remand for 5 to 7 years. And then, lo and behold, I'm brought into the courts of law and I'm deemed innocent. And those are the questions that have been raised continuously, especially when this bail issue came. And then also when we are looking, because this was an arise for the 2 politicians that were arrested, I mean, court has deemed at the discretion of the judge that they are fit to get bail. And then you have them kidnapped right out of prison. So how do we have that decision? One, between, you know, the disrespect of court in their directives, because I'm imagining out of the authority of the judge, he or she deemed that Alan Sewanyana and Segirinya were valid to be taken out on bail, and then they are kidnapped, and then we have a whole conversation on they don't deserve to be on bail, they are suspects, they have capital offenses they've committed, and so we've deemed them guilty before they are innocent. And that's why she brings in of the issue of remanding people for a long time, and, you know, ending up with a system that is insufficient to deliver justice. Because, I mean, here is an innocent person, I am a petty thief, yes, I might have stolen, but I should have served a lighter sentence, and I end up 7 years without getting justice. How do we speak to that, especially in, you know, the extradition of court systems?
Thank you so much. One of the things we need to look at is they are people that have committed some crimes and can buy their way out of justice. We need to acknowledge that there are those people. And then there are poor people that have failed to access justice. So you find that somebody has killed someone and can buy their way. They can buy their way. And let's agree that our courts, there is corruption. You send them back to the community and they terrorize the people that reported them. But there are also those people that did not commit the crime. And then you say, you know, we can't give you bail. So it's two-way, it has two sides. There are those that can buy justice, and there are those that cannot buy justice. There are those that have committed the crime, and surely they found him committing the crime, and then you send him back to community on bail. Either the community is going to defend itself, or he's going to beat up the people that reported him. And there is this person that did not commit. Actually, they've been framed. We have those cases, right? They've been framed, and then you're saying that they cannot access bail. So I think there is need to have a further discussion around this. And maybe the people that are informing the president need to inform him more. Because when it's politics, now it has a different drama to it. And the members of parliament should know that during campaigns they can say, you murdered so and so, so they put you in jail and they don't give you bail. And then after the elections, they release you, because we've seen these things before. However, we also need to know that there are people that buy justice.
So how do we redress, especially in regard to I've not been seen by the judge, or my case has been held in backlog? How do I receive justice quicker than the system is letting us have? Because then you have an issue of there, and I think we are now in digress of Article 28, innocent until proven guilty,
Yes.
because I'm trying to understand, how do I get justice so that I don't serve 7 years of something I didn't do?
Yes.
How do we get to that point, regardless of, you know, because there are bottlenecks continuously, but there are systems that should be able to work regardless of bottlenecks, especially when it looks to, you know, making sure people go back to life, and also to reduce on the influx of prisoners. A lot of our Ugandan children are in prison for maybe idle and disorderly, the night curfew, and they're not, you know, brought before the courts of law. So how do we deal with that systemic, you know, bureaucracy? Yeah.
We go back to our justice system. You very well know that there is a shortage of magistrates. Their financing is less to be able to come and do their jobs. And they're also working in tough conditions. As I've told you, there are people that can buy justice. So if somebody can buy justice, their case is going to be quicker compared to the case of a woman in the rural area that has just had her chicken stolen, or a poor person. So we need to bring in the aspect of equality. And I believe that the NRM government is trying its best, but we are not yet 100%. The aspect of equality and the aspect of financing for the judiciaries, to finance them more, especially the lower courts. And also the respect of human rights. And I have seen, was it the Americans, where they would say, we will not negotiate with terrorists. So it becomes different when counter-violent extremism is involved. They will tell you now human rights goes aside. We would need a counter-violent extremist personnel to come through. The issue of we will not negotiate with terrorists, but I don't want to think that those two are terrorists, really. Segrinya and his drama, really. We have many people that are terrorizing and spoiling the NRM as corruption officials. So I think we need to give people the benefit of doubt and not come to conclusions. However, also the police has their own findings. They will tell you, we have our own findings. They've not yet released them. So also need to give the benefit of doubt to the police that is investigating to produce these reports.
Yeah. Let me come back to you. The president in his conversation said the opposition or the people that are in support of these suspects should be able to, you know, push for a quicker process in getting justice. And I think that is a conversation you're bringing in when it comes to police evidence, to all these things that the police are saying, oh, we have sufficient evidence. Can we then begin the judicial process, so that we do not have a case of the president, you know, proved them guilty before they even went before trial, because that is what it's now starting to look like. And I want to bring you, Marion, in, especially when it comes to issues of, you know, separation of powers. Are we seeing an ASAP of court powers?
First of all, I find it very problematic that he would say that MPs should push for investigations. Are they the police? Are they the ones to actually gauge for the police how long the investigations have taken?
Yeah.
I mean, really, they're still asking for reports on high-profile murders. I mean, Kawesi, up to now, we do not know who killed him. All we see is people coming to confess that apparently they were paid off to give false testimony. And who is in charge of investigating? Is it Parliament, or it's what? Or it's the police? What Parliament can do is maybe put pressure and say, you know, bring out the evidence that you have. And I think they're already doing that.
Yes.
So I don't see exactly what the president is talking about. And yes, there's a usurp of powers, and there is, okay, right now, to me as a person, I feel like the judiciary has become now complacent in that usurp of powers. Like, they have handed over their powers. I'm seeing statements, and they are very, how can I say, they make me very uncomfortable. Statements saying that, you see, the president is the last court, you know.
I heard that one.
Yes,
Owen Dolo.
unfortunately, the chief justice, you know,
Said
that. So you can clearly say we have a chief justice who has an understanding that, irrespective of a court decision, because we're saying that in line of a court decision, irrespective of a court decision by a court that should be respected by government, he believes that the president, the executive, can come and override it, and he will be okay with that. That gone are the days when, you know, when, let me say, court is stormed by the military, or when the judges feel that their authority is not respected, they perhaps boycott. Or you see ULS, Uganda Law Society, going out on a rampage and condemning. Gone are those days. Now the judiciary is in bed with the executive to continue the oppression of Ugandan citizens. And I think it's a sad state of events. It makes us question, because then if the system is like that, how else can you convince Ugandans that you can get justice from such a system? That you are even removing the safeguards that they had in place. Because even if the system was rigged already, that you can have your case in court for 10 years, a Ugandan citizen would always have hope that I can always apply for bail, and while the court takes its time, I am out and about my business. But you have already a very, very imperfect system, and even the safeguards supposed to protect people, you're scraping them off. So really, you are just setting off a ticking time bomb anytime explodes.
Rebecca, ticking time bombs. And I want I want to talk, especially when she spoke about, you know, the fact that it is possible that if I get bail, I can come out and do business as usual. This bail conversation has also brought to life the fact that very few people actually go back to ask for their bail money. And, you know, in such a reality, I mean, I've showed up for all my court cases, I was granted bail, and then I'm deemed innocent at the end of this process. How do you help a regular Ugandan to understand you actually can get your bail money back? Or do even people know these things? Because it goes back to the bigger conversation is, do people know their rights?
I believe people don't know their rights, starting from even the leaders that are in power. Because if most of them knew their rights, they would be sensitizing the communities of their rights. So when you lack the knowledge of what is owed to you, you lack the ability to demand for it. Yeah. You lack the avenues to demand for what is truly yours. So you'll find that most people don't even know what you're talking about. If you ask somebody bail, they will tell you, I asked for bond. They will confuse those two. Yeah. And it's the role of their legal person to tell them about this. But also the legal person tends to withhold this information because it's to their advantage. So I think we need to create awareness around these things. And that goes back to the financing of the justice system. These things are supposed to be on media, in the local languages, for people, even a woman in the garden, in the Shema, being able to know, oh, if this and this happens, I can go here and get my money back. And it's my taxes that I'm getting actually back. And it's something that we need to broaden. But you see now, the mere fact that the president talked about bail, it's now a conversation. Yeah. It's for us to start and also see us all to say, you know what, let's increase visibility around this issue.
Well, on that point, do you feel like, because this is a feeling I tend to see from different people, that the president is now setting the narrative around bail, yes, because he threw in things like Ugandans don't know I don't know these things. For us, when they say bail, they think they've released you.
Yes.
Do you feel like he's, shifting the narrative around these things to create buy-in from people to actually push for no bail?
He has always tried to do that.
I think he's saying a referendum. Because if people are going to say no bail, do they understand what bail is? But I think we need to get out of our setting of the urban area. I've been in the village. Most people do not understand these things. Their courts are LC1. By the time they're taking him or her to court, he doesn't or she doesn't know what is going on. So for me, it's time that we create awareness so that people make informed decisions. Because they'll say, we went to a caucus and people decided. No, people cannot decide on what they do not know. The members of parliament, if they are to inquire from their constituents, they have to educate them what bail is, what bond is, what happens when you're arrested, what is reconciliation. Because it's even at police, you have to release money. Yet you have to know that this case is going to court, whether I like it or not. So that is one thing that we as community members, as leaders, need to use our voices to teach our people, especially the people that are very poor and in the rural areas, what the law says, what the Constitution of Uganda says. And when a politician comes and says one sentence, it's not enough for us to just sit and go with that one sentence. It's to dig deeper. If he's saying the people that don't deserve bail, ask yourself, when so-and-so was killed and we found out, mob justice, and we found out that he was innocent, what happens to the people that killed him? You get things like that.
I think then it speaks to quicker processes. Let me bring you in, Marion, especially now in the future of what justice looks like for us. So you have the President of the Republic of Uganda speaking on issues of no police bond. For capital offences, instead of life imprisonment, we should now start to think about mandatory, death penalties, so that we have a life for life kind of situation. And then we also have this broader conversation on no bail. What does the future of our court systems and our justice system then look like for us as Ugandans?
Well, they look pretty grim, I must say. We know for a fact that this is not the first time we have had conversations like this with the president. I mean, always when let me say, especially when political actors are involved in these situations, that's when conversations of mandatory, scraping of bail come in, and mandatory, death penalties and all that. Uganda is a signatory to many international conventions especially on human rights. First of all, it comes to, I don't know how he's going to be able to explain it to other people that he sat with to sign these international conventions, because part of the peace and harmony and the good relationship that he tries to have with foreign countries and what is on the thing of the fact that Uganda, recently he was talking about condemning security operatives for not respecting human rights.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he just did that for showbiz.
No, I think he even re-echoed it again. And he said they are going to look into the report for the November killings and see, come to the conclusion of that. But I want to understand whether the same sternness that he had on the bail for politicians will definitely apply for the security operatives.
Well, we'll have to see that, but knowing him, because already if you see, if someone is going to respect human rights, then they start with the law. Because the right to bail is constitutional. We had a case of Susan Chigula that outlawed, that ruled that the death penalty was unconstitutional. It violated the right to life. It violated the right for freedom of torture, So all these are conversations. You cannot have a conversation on mandatory mandatory death penalty and scraping of bail, and then tomorrow you're talking on a press and you're saying, those guys, security operatives are bad, they're violating human rights, when you yourself in your statement, surely you're advocating for the violation of human rights. So it's hypocrisy in broad daylight. For me, seeing the actions of the president and what he speaks, it's not the same. I don't see the same thing happening. So I'm looking at a very grim picture, and especially when the judiciary does not seem to have the backbone or seems very toothless in fighting back. We were recently celebrating the late Chief Justice, Benedict Shiwanuka, and we were remembering his legacy for being a person who stood up for the judiciary and stood up for the rule of law in a time of crisis, in a time when there was so much brutality and violence by a dictator. Unfortunately, we're missing so many Benedict Shiwanukas. It's like his legacy has ended with him. I think that the current Chief Justice should reflect and look at what kind of legacy he himself, 50 years from now, 20 years from now, how will he be remembered? Will he be remembered as someone who just made the judiciary a carpet for the president to step all over? Will he be remembered as someone who did nothing for the rule of law or constitutionalism of this country? So there's a lot that we need to reflect on as a country. Are we just going to let this? Because at the end of the day, whether you're NRM, whether you're opposition, if there is lawlessness in this country and all that, you don't know which enemies you have until they have the opportunity to come for you. So if tomorrow they accuse you of something very petty and you go away and you spend 10 years in prison, it will not matter. Even the people that you praise, sing, will abandon you at that moment.
True.
So we need to fight so hard for these safeguards to stay in place. We saw the Kaihuras who used to the law came and came after them.
And Becky, that is why I want to bring you in, especially on that concern, is that while it looks like in a particular moment it looks like a witch hunt, it could actually be a danger for the future. That it will be a net that gets more than the people that it was targeted for. And we've seen that even for different other laws that have been changed and shifted. And it's a reality we need to now start to see. Are we creating loopholes that will also capture us as well? But then also I wanted you to also speak to what she was saying of the fact that the president's directives and actions are not aligning together in regard to human rights, in regard to issues of law and the rule of law. So what do you think should be the position of Ugandans in understanding the key directives that are coming from the president, but then also in knowing where to advocate as the future goes on?
Okay. The right to bail, if it's taken off, it's going to affect including the first family. All of us, poor, rich, and everybody. As I said before, during politics, right now it looks like these two, I call Segrinya a comedian, he's funny. It looks like these two, it's their time. But our time is coming. Politicians especially, even in the NRM, in the opposition, you'll find that you are going for a campaign and somebody will wake up and witch hunt you and say, no, they are killed so and so. And you're off for during that whole campaign time. And when they are done, you're set free. We've seen this before.
I hear you.
So when we say this person cannot apply for bail, it means that it's going to affect even the members of parliament. I think also the president needs to be his advisors. I hope they're the ones that advise him, not him advising them. Need to sit back and say, hey, look, man, this is not right. Just if we're saying as the NRM we are here for securing people's future, we need to secure their future within the constitution. Because you cannot tell me today because justice starts from the local level.
Yeah.
You cannot tell me today we are condemning police and then we are saying no bail, and the police person will intimidate the person at the police station, because we've seen this before. So the people of Uganda, it's up to them to seek for knowledge. No one is going to hand it over to you. You know there is a constitution.
And ignorance of the law is no
Yes,
defense.
yes. You cannot wake up and tell me you've not called your member of parliament and tell me, can you give us an interpreted version of the constitution in Runyankore? And it's time for people to ask for these things from their leaders. Ask the LC chairperson to convene a meeting for people to understand, if this happens to me, what do I do? And so that when the president says something, they can say, but hey, Mr. President, it does this and this. And also calling upon members of parliament, because in the long run, it's going to be brought to them and said, hey guys, this is a proposal. And after they have passed it, it's like, the members of parliament are the ones that passed it. So the people said.
Yeah.
So it's time for members of parliament, and especially the NRM members of parliament, sometimes advise him.
Yeah.
Because I don't know where he picked it from and what report, because as I've told you, there are different reports that are put before his table. Is it a security report? Is it a local report for him to make that decision? But I remember, was it the public management bill that affected Amama Mbabazi?
Yeah.
And he was put, and a whole former prime minister was put in jail, and I'm like, what?
And he was part of the people that passed.
Yes, and he was the part of the people that said, hey guys, this is for us, but at some point, the same laws we are making are going to take us down.
Yeah.
So whether NRM, whether opposition, it's time for us to say, no, this is not good for the people and ourselves.
Yeah.
And advocate, knowing that we all have something to lose.
Yeah.
And also for the people to sit down. You cannot sit there and say, because so and so my neighbor is having that issue, it's none of my concern. It is your concern. And it should concern you that it is going to come to your home, because by the time a fire is in your neighbor's home, it means it can happen in your home. Therefore, what risk management tools have you put in place?
So are we saying that the president was ill-advised when it comes to the issues of, you believe so?
I believe so.
That's a very important
Apart from
issue.
if it was a security issue, because security issues are sometimes beyond what we can comprehend. That's why I said that Americans said we do not negotiate with terrorists. But I also want to believe that it's just a
these are ordinary people, not even just ordinary, because when you look at the key issues their lawyers were raising, were the one, regardless of what they're saying, the times the murders happened in the Masaka region, these two people were, far removed from these places. So as much as we want to believe that they have a case to answer, it also looks like a witch hunt as it keeps on going. And it's up to the energy court, the president is putting in it as well.
It's up to the court to take a stand.
Yeah.
Because we have the political side, we have the technocrat side. This is where you take a stand and say, hey, police, produce evidence. I think we need to get to that level and say, you know what, Mr. President, you put the right people in office. Now let them do for you a good job. So task the police to bring the report, and if it's not there, let the people go. And I'm from that. If for people that Christians, Pontius Pilate asked, to which charge do you charge this man? And that is one of the things we'd hear from the Pontius Pilate of this country. To which charge do we charge this man? Let's not just say crucify him, crucify them. No. We need to ask ourselves, what are the impacts? What is it showing to the other people? But what happens when it's our own people? They're going to face these same things. But also it's the silence from the party. There's a saying that you do not outshine your boss, but I want to think that the president has put in place where people don't outshine him, and people advise him. So whoever advised him, because we very well know that curfew is there because some security people advise, because they're benefiting from it. and his people are still suffering. And then he will come and say, my people, but they are suffering. So the advisors, together with the head, sometimes advise wrongly without making consultations with the local people. Yeah.
Let me put a stop to that conversation, because it's a broad one,
Yes.
especially because it brings in different aspects of our legal and judicial systems, and then go to something that is, happening on right now. The RDC overall was caught to have told his officials that you will not be able, and any other Ugandan, you will not be able to access services if you're not vaccinated. And it is, bringing us into a broader conversation of, choice to vaccinate, and the question of whether it should be legality. And that is where I want to pick your brains on as we wind up. Do you think, in this conversation on, opening up and making sure different things are now working, do you think he was right to, to say, I will not give you services if you're not vaccinated, Marion?
No. Okay, there's some things that we want to, that seem right in theory, but practically they are not practical, let me say. Okay, so let us assume that we're going to get, people are not going to receive services, and we're doing it in good faith. The fact that, the pandemic has to stop, people are not being responsive to vaccination. There's so much fear, there's so much propaganda in the population. Let us assume that we then say that it's by force. So if we're saying that people are not going to be able to access vaccines, services, first of all, are we making vaccination free? Is he making it free? Because we also have to look at the financial implication of that. That for majority of people, the reason why they initially were not getting the COVID, even the COVID test, was because of the expense when it ceased to be free. That people would only find out that they have COVID when they are...
Vaccines are still free though.
Yeah, when they are when they're on the hospital bed. So, okay, so if we say that they have made them free, are they available to everyone?
Yeah, true.
Because if they have made them free, and they are saying that they're in short supply, they are saying that they are only able to purchase in bunches, and that countries are holding vaccines, and African countries are not allowed to actually make them. Yes. So the availability. So because even if everyone goes for these vaccines, we do know that the supply will not be enough for even a quarter of the population. Looking at that, so are you going to starve the rest of the nation due to something out of their control? Are you going to say that people cannot work because of something they have no control over? I think it's very, very absurd. Yes, we get as many people to vaccinate as possible, but making it mandatory may be very problematic given the availability itself. And then the thing is that, okay, are these vaccines all over the place? Have they reached all corners of the country? Are we saying they're only at health centers? Because we have seen situations where people find it so hard to get to their health centers, because the health center is kilometers and kilometers away. And then the other thing is that it's just the practicability of it, I'm finding, is very problematic. I understand the theory behind it, the fact that that we cannot proceed
without
vaccination. Yes, mass vaccination, because once we get out of the lockdown, the cases increase, the spread is then we go back. We cannot. That is not sustainable for us. But also, so are we answering? How do we answer the availability question? But also, I think government might have perhaps not done enough to to comfort people about the, with reports of saying that people went and were medicated water,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, yeah.
then there's propaganda countering the propaganda of the vaccines. Some of them are expiring soon, and then there are reports of people dying, whether true or not. We do know that sometimes vaccines also have their own side effects,
Yes.
depending on what conditions, underlying conditions you had. For me, I think instead of denying that there's anything completely wrong, that they should come out, give the people a report that they can believe. You get, because I have personally had some reports of colleagues of mine who took the vaccine, whether or not they had underlying conditions,
They had
but
side
someone,
effects.
someone dies, They were normal, but they took the vaccine
Then
2
died.
days later, and then they died.
Sure.
So it would be good for government to come out and say, we did an autopsy report on this person, and the reason they died was not because of the vaccine
But
per
they
se,
had this
but they
problem.
had this and this
True.
problem.
True.
It's instead of denying that this is happening, I think government should now counter those reports that actually this person did not die
With
because of the
information
vaccine.
that can help.
Exactly. So I don't think they have been good at countering the information that is coming from the other side, and that's why people have been hesitant. But also it's hard to put trust in a government that constantly shows you that health is not their priority.
Sure.
That their priority is maybe in double cabins, their priorities is maybe in MPs getting new cars, so you lose the trust that you had initially, because we had so much trust during the first lockdown, but the people have lost complete trust, and therefore they don't also trust that the vaccines coming from you are actually
Okay.
are actually okay. So for me, I think that government would benefit more from a strategy that inquires countering that narrative of the vaccines have a problem, and also putting their priorities straight in the side of health. Show people that you actually care about their health. Pay the health workers, stock the hospitals, like put confidence in this population, instead of going for something that is impractical, because there's no country that has been able to vaccinate a full population, or apart from European countries, but also them, they have struggled to get people to actually get vaccinated. You get?
Rebecca, where do go as we wind down now? Data, to have data that we know this. So far now we've covered this number of people, because the president says if we can, push to 4 million plus, then we can then open up other spaces as well. And then you have an RDC saying, I will not offer services if you're not vaccinated. And I think it is it's a backdrop from what the president said. I will fire RDCs who do not push for the vaccination. If vaccines come to your place and they expire, you'll be fired. So in his stance, I feel like he is trying to push for implementation with sternness. But then how do we have a feel of we are moving towards the numbers that we need? Do we have data that speaks to that?
Thank you. I don't think the Ministry of Health has brought out the data right now, because they're quite good with visibility, and I thank them for that. However, I think the president's directive to the RDCs, because he's the one that employs them, speaks to what they need to do. How they need to do it is different. How they need to do it is according to their area. What is in their area? There are people that will say we are going for vaccination. There are those that wouldn't. But we need to also encourage people to go for vaccination so that we go back to the normal. And people are going through a lot. There's a lot. We need to be empathetic and sympathetic with people. People have lost their loved ones. Others also, this COVID has caused them to think about their life plans. What is this happening? It's a shock. So maybe how the RDCs would have done it is to sensitize the people. But how are they going to sensitize the people without information?
Sure.
They've told them the medicine is safe. Okay, go and vaccinate yourselves. They are asked, when is the medicine safe? They don't have what to answer. Or else, yes, it's safe, but they are saying it's expiring. You go and do this. Because also they are trying to keep their little job that they have. So how should have been one of the issues that would have been addressed. Put them through a community engagement sensitization. This is how you get, and community mobilization. This is how you mobilize your community. This is how you sensitize your community. First, take the leaders. Let them show that they've been vaccinated. LC chairperson, when he's vaccinated, tell him to get all his people in the cell vaccinated. Such things. But if the medical workers would come up to where the LC chair is, it would bridge this gap of saying that the transport to the health sector or the health center is very far. Would put into consideration such things for the elderly and for the young ones. But also the people don't want. We need to acknowledge that.
Anti-vaxxers.
And some people just fear injections. They're asking, can't you just give me a tablet? So such things. And you know, in the 1990s, there were counselors at health centers. And this is their role. Can we see them come forth? We cannot just have Dr. Ruth Acheng all the time. We now want to see the counselors convince the population that, you know, the injection is not painful. That psychological calmness, because the health sector is dealing with the mind, the body. And you're telling somebody, I want to put this in your body so that you do not affect your neighbor. And they're telling you, but my body is my right. We are talking about human rights. So it's also a hard thing to do. But we also need to understand the environment the RDCs are working in. We're talking about people that do not have access to information. But we're also talking about people that do not trust the medicine and those that fear the medicine. But also RDCs that want to keep their job. How do we all work together to ensure that that happens? So maybe the Ministry of Health can change in a little bit in terms of visibility around safety, addressing the concerns of people that have come up, because you'll see people say that most rich people died during, and they went to vaccinate.
The second lockdown.
In the second lockdown, but for us the poor ones did not die. So it's a disease for the rich. And until we break down information and teach people at their own level of understanding, then we will not have the numbers. Yeah.
I'd like to end this conversation there. We need to sensitize so that we can have the numbers that we are looking for. Thank you for tuning in. I've been your moderator, Tricia, Gloria, Nabaye, and I am very glad that we continue to have these conversations. Thank you for coming out to have this conversation with me. So let's continue this conversation in our chat boxes. Please like, share, and subscribe. But most importantly, you know, change and have these conversations even in your small group so that we can, you know, start to, you know, raise awareness to what we have and to where we are as a society. Thank you. Have a good day.